Today, it's your birthday. Yesterday was too, and so's tomorrow. Not sure what Christina and I mean by this powerful concept in our community? Let us introduce you. We are thrilled you are here. Like I said, we're Helene and Christina, and our mission is to empower, teach, and to remind women to celebrate themselves. Combined, we have over 35 years' experience as therapists in private practice. It was in the office, as well as in many of our personal relationships, that we were hearing women struggling because they were not feeling seen or alive during their messy middle life stage of life. Not sure how we define that? No problem. Go back to episode 2 of season 1. We talk all about it there.
Hey there, we come to you as your friends, not your therapists. We are two women in this life stage with you. Our podcast promises to talk about the hard or uncomfortable topics in a way to empower you, laugh along the way as part of our healing, and find joy in life. We strive to find the meaning of the messy middle or the unknown. What sets us apart? We leave you with gifts each and every episode. They may come in the form of actionable tools, strategies, invitations to be exactly where you are in life, or sometimes mic drop thought-provoking ideas.
Now that we're friends, let's make this official. We would absolutely love to help start your Thursday mornings, so make sure you follow the show wherever you're listening to us right now. Sign up for our free newsletter on our website, yourbirthdaypodcast.com. And those gifts that Christina just mentioned, there's a quiz on our website. Go ahead, take it. Gifts will be immediately dropped to your inbox from us.
Friends, I am so excited for you to meet my friend Shelby. Shelby is one of the first people I met in the neighborhood when I arrived to Minnesota, and I will never forget her walking down the street with her kids, and our kids just instantly started playing in the driveway. She told me she was the PTO president of my daughter's school, and I was like, how do I get involved? Because as you probably know, I've always been a big believer that being involved in your children's school means that they're cared for and they matter to the school. And she was my in. Since that time, I've definitely taken a step back, as you all know, in the school realm, but I have also come to really admire Shelby immensely over the past 3 years that I've gotten to know her.
Shelby, Christina has shared with me bits and pieces of your story, and we are thrilled to have you join us today. I understand that you're an attorney and quite the powerhouse attorney before making the decision in your career and focusing on your family and all the things called mom. So, Shelby, the episode right before this one was the gift of not parenting. Our desire is to show equal sides to making decisions in our lives. And that's why we are thrilled to have you talk about the gift of parenting. First and foremost, please share a bit about yourselves with our audience.
Hi, thanks for having me on. It's fun to see you in your element, Christina, instead of just in your neighborhood rounds. So I live in Minnesota. This is my husband's hometown, and we moved back here when I was pregnant with my fourth child after about 15 years of being on coastal, on the big East Coast, West Coast cities, and just, living professional life. So I met my husband in college in St. Louis. We moved to DC, where I went to law school. I graduated from Georgetown. I was at a big, Vault 10 firm there. We moved to Seattle so I could clerk for a federal judge, which is, sort of hot stuff in legal land.
Yeah.
Back to DC to the firm. And then I had 2 kids while I was there at my law firm. And then somewhere along the line, I was like, this is just not for us. And so, things develop as they do. So here I am now, 2 more kids later. So we have 4 living in suburban Minnesota. And like you said, doing all the things mom.
I love it. So we're really excited to dive in to how parenting is a gift for those who choose to have children. And what was it like for you to adjust to the change in your life that brought you to full-time parenting? And also, we're going to dig into some truths about parenting because it's real and it's not all sparkle rainbows and
Oh, no.
glitter. And so, first of all, did you always know that you wanted to be a parent, or has that decision kind of evolved over time?
I knew I would always want to be a parent. I liked kids. I always liked kids. I liked family, but never in a million years would I have guessed that I would have 4 kids and stay home with them. I thought for sure I would like maybe have two and have a full-time nanny and still be going guns blazing in some sort of professional path.
Wow.
So, we had the first baby. I had only been at the firm a couple of years, and I was very surprised when I came back from maternity leave. I did not want to leave that baby. And I would have thought, like, run screaming back to the office, like, hand off to the nanny. Whew, thank heavens. And I just absolutely loathed leaving him behind. And so, that was sort of the beginning for us. And
Oh.
people say, oh, it gets easier, you get used to it. And you do get used to it, or at least I got used to it. And I am good at doing things I don't want to do. Like, for better or worse, I think a lot of women are like that. We're like, yes, we can force ourselves to do things that we don't want to do all day long and still do well at them. But that doesn't mean I liked it. And so that feeling just never went away. I was like, I hated leaving him. So had the second baby, still didn't want to leave them. And at the time, we were in DC. We had no family around. My husband was abroad 1 week a month. And so in addition to not wanting to leave those kids behind, we were just perpetually like on the razor edge of chaos. It was one phone call like, hey, you got to fly out tomorrow for a deposition, or like one kid is sick or one nanny is sick phone call away from like the delicate balance spiraling into chaos. And that was just not a pleasant way to be. So
Yeah.
yeah, when my second one, Ingrid, was a baby, we just kind of made the decision like, hey, we can do it now. I've paid back my law school loans. We were financially in a place that we could do it. And we said, okay, we're going to try this. And it was a wild transition because I was going from spending like 1 hour a day with my one child to like 24 hours a day with my two children. And those are really different.
They
Yeah.
are different. I'm going to take you back to the first one,
Sorry,
though.
hang on, pause. Cat disaster. You can edit
Real
that.
life, people. This is real life, juggling
Yeah,
it
I love
all.
it. Oh, I love it.
We got four-legged things coming across.
We got four-legged things coming across.
That's okay. Our dogs often appear.
Yes. Well, she just wrecked my thing. I do some photography and I was like, ooh, my light's kind of harsh over here. So I had like a mirror acting as fill light on this side. We're just going to not have fill light. Sorry.
That's okay. We're
Okay. Edit
real.
that. We're real.
So,
So anyway, yeah, it was a wild transition to go from like 1 hour a day with the baby, or baby and toddler to like all day, every day, nonstop with no help.
Wow.
so I'm going to rewind you from 4 kids. We're going to go back to the first one, not to neglect the other 3. We'll
Yeah,
get to them. I
we'll get to
promise.
them.
So what was it like for you? You talked a little bit about when you had your first child and different, but if you can expand a little bit for our audience, what was that juggling like for you with your career? What did you like about it, if there was? Because I think some women, our audience, even myself, like I loved having my first child, but the juggling, it
Yeah.
was kind of like another task oriented goal thing. It was anything I could get to be really good at, even though it was really hard. So, with that, what did you like about it? And what did you not like about it? Because what I loved about your energy is you seem really fucking real. So let's have it.
I'll tell you. I mean, so I am unabashedly, I loved gold stars and brass rings and accolades and A pluses and all that stuff. And so, you really get that when you are a young working mom in a male dominated field. The firm loved to try to try me out and be like, look, this girl is kicking ass. She's, like keeping it together. I was doing really well. It was a tough firm to be at, in a challenging group, and I was getting great reviews and doing that. And so I did. I loved that feeling of being like, look, I can do it. Like, it's another thing I'm crushing. I can like have the baby and be pregnant and bill 70 hours a week. Or so, and so it was just crazy. It was,
Was
and
there like the
in some ways I liked that. And I did like, I liked the work I was doing too. So it was in that moment. It was, it felt a little bit like, okay, I'm doing it. I'm having it all.
was there kind of the expectation that when you went to work, you were supposed to put mom in a box and pretend she didn't exist? Like you weren't allowed to talk about daycare or sick kids or things like that. Like, because it would kind of, what's the word I want? Dilute your work.
I would say no. And that was maybe lucky with the group that I was in. I happened to be working for a partner who I believe went on to have 11 children, a man, of course. But so like family was very much a part of that. The other young people that I was working with, we were mostly men. The men, talked about their kids. I think
Mhm.
there was pressure not to talk about like, oh, it's making it hard, or I can't do X at work because of the kids, but in terms of like, hey, how are the kids? Oh, what are you doing about daycare? Oh, what are you doing with the nanny? How much are you paying your nanny? Like, we weren't supposed to pretend that parenting didn't exist, but I do think the ethos was very much is that you acted as though parenting was not impacting your job performance.
Okay. That's
That makes
awesome.
sense.
Yeah, that explains a lot. And I think that's where women really, really struggle is just how do you balance the reality with the job?
Yeah.
And, much of the burden is on us, whether we choose that, it's natural, it's the way dynamics are, it's culture. Like we could spend probably 5 sessions on why, but it is.
It is. Yeah.
And yeah. And so, and especially in a powerhouse law firm, I can remember having done expert testimony now for 15 years, like missing first day of school because I had to go testify, or, missing, like Saveo said to me the other day, she said, Mom, this is the first time you were at my science fair because you've been in court every year in Florida. And I was like, really? I feel like I've been here. And she's like, no, Mom, first year. And I was like, oh, yeah, you're right.
They'll remember and call us out on it. Yeah.
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 And she's like, I'm glad you showed up this time. And I was like, because like I didn't want to was kind of the like memo I was
I
getting.
was kidding.
And I was like, honey, believe me, I'd much rather be there. But the thought of a jumpsuit because I don't show up to court in a jail cell versus your science project,
No.
that's kind of where I'm at, sweetheart. And, not to say that it's like that extreme, but, they expect you there and you don't get to choose court dates.
Yes. I mean, if it makes you feel any better, I am at 99.5% of the things. The children will still not be shy to call me out on the 0.5%
Right.
that I do not show up for.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
that's kids.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, getting back to this, do you think it would have been easier to continue working if you had been in a smaller town or you had more supports around you of like family or super close friends or things like that?
Yes, it probably would have been easier. I don't know that I would have done it because, again, some of it for us was just like, I missed the kids. I didn't want to be away from them. It probably would have been easier to make it work. I had all the supports when they talk about, like you get your Sheryl Sandberg and you say, like, what do you need to make it work? Like, I have a very supportive, like gung ho, like hardworking husband. We had money to have a full-time nanny. We had cleaners. So it wasn't like I couldn't afford some of those structural things that make it possible. Yes, if we had been close to family, it probably would have taken away like that razor edge of chaos. It's like, oh, the nanny is sick. I could have called grandma or something. It probably would have done that. I think it probably would have only like prolonged the inevitable. So in a way, it was a gift that like it got hard fast. And so then we
Yeah.
could just move on rather than maybe dragging it out for another couple of years. That would have just been sort of a slog.
It helped you work through the career guilt faster than,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is good.
It was like, oh, this is just not sustainable.
Yeah.
Let's change it and move on rather than be like, well, let's try this.
Right.
Let's
That was the
get
messy
better.
middle part of it.
Yeah. It abbreviated our messy middle quite a bit in that transition.
But I
How
think
did-
too, like you're a super decisive person, Shelby, and you process things quickly.
Yeah.
So for you, you were able to get to your core and have those messy, middle, tough conversations with yourself. And you had a super supportive, great communicating partner who you could talk that through, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And you had the financial means to be able to make that decision. I think a lot of women struggle with all of those.
Mhm.
Like, can I communicate this to to my spouse? Will it be supported? Will, what's the financial,
Impact.
Yep.
impact? That's a great word, impact. That was the word I was looking for. If I do this, and, what is my identity? And you were already quite confident in your identity and who you were. So I think that made a big impact.
Yeah, you're right. I am decisive and just see it and, make the choice and move on. But it's hard to give up the
Mhm.
identity that you've had for whatever, 30 years, 30 some odd years at that point.
This led into this
I,
next
I
question
was,
Yeah,
perfectly.
I was just going to say. So, with that, and knowing that you're a decisive person, was there like a pivotal moment, feeling, experience that led you to the decision to parent full time? And I'm not going to necessarily say leave your career because I don't know if you are going to go back to it, right? None of us know what's going to happen tomorrow, but allow yourself to parent full time and perhaps pause the career part of Shelby.
I don't think there was one moment. Like I said, I knew like from the first day back at work after my first maternity leave that I was like not happy leaving the baby. But, then it was still 2.5 years until I really quit. And so, it sounds like I'm decisive, but it is a process. You try it, you see, can we make this work? Do I want to make this work? Had a second baby, let's try it. Let's see, can we make this work? I had made the shift after my second Ingrid was born. Like, let's try setting up part-time at a law firm and see how that structure works. And it still was just like, no, it's just not working. Part-time at a law firm typically means you reduce your hours over the course of the year. It does not necessarily mean that, like, say, instead of working, 60 hours a week, you're working exactly 30 every week. It means over the course of the year, you bill 1,100 hours. So it could be like you have a month where you're just gangbusters and then a month where you're basically off, which is not conducive to sort of like calm household management. It's not conducive to, it's not financial. It doesn't make financial sense because you still need the full-time childcare for the whole year. Now all of a sudden you're making half the salary. So, we sort of tried that and, also got to the point where like, is my husband, advancing to the point he makes enough money? Because at that point I had the higher salary. So we did have to wait. It's like, okay, is law school paid off? Is my husband making enough money for us to afford this? Have we really sort of tried all of the options to make this tenable? And then after all of those things, is the choice still fairly clear? Yes. So that's when I finally left.
I love that decision tree.
Right. It was a really
Like
big,
we are very rational. We are. We're very like,
yeah.
yeah, we are very sort of
That's
left rational
awesome.
people.
So, what has the adjustment been like for you, from that day that you walked out of the office for the last time to now?
Well, gosh, I mean, walking out of the office and I get the flashback on Facebook or whatever every year. And so that one just came up because I think I left in February. And I remember like my toddler came in, so little Henry came in with me and he was like playing with my phone and stuff and like playing with the office supplies for the last day. And I was like, oh, I'm not coming back to an office, which was so strange. And just being home and being like, it's going to be wonderful. And you have the picture of, I'm going to totally like ballerina farm Mormon wife it. I'm not, but like, oh, it's going to be like this. I'm going to Montessori mom it. And then those first few weeks were like, just like the constant assault of like, I need this. Someone's crying. Someone's da, 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 da. And I had been used to sitting in this office quietly with a very intellectual job. I sat in my office mostly quietly doing research, writing briefs. So it was like, just as a sensory experience from one extreme to another.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was wild. It was tough, at first. But I think I like that you call this like, how do you do this in your job? And like parenting is a job in some
100%.
ways. And people think, oh, it's just like this magical, like visceral experience. And it is, but it also is a job. And it takes you like 6 months to
Mhm.
get good at a job. It takes
Yeah.
you a while to figure out how do I set up my work environment to be suitable to me? How do I structure my day? And people structure their in office days differently. Some people like do all their easy stuff in the morning and all their tough stuff, in the afternoon. And some people are vice versa. And like, you got to figure out a pattern of the day that works for you. And so I went through that for that first year. Like, how do we set up our day so that it like works for us? How do we set up our home so that it works for us? And that parenting is just like any other job. It's going to take you a while to like figure out your flow.
I think that's a huge gift.
Well, I was going to say, you just gave our audience two great gifts. Like if you were working outside of the home, you had an office space or an office that you knew how it ran. And now you're still clocking in, but now 24/7, 365. And give yourself the gift of time and permission to figure out the lay of the land And it's
Mhm.
not supposed to be all knowing immediately. Like Shelby said, it could take a year. And within that year, there could be
Yeah.
tons of changes.
Yeah.
So give yourself permission to get used to it and allow adjustments as you and your family need. I love that
Mhm.
gift.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that's powerful, especially, like I'm reflecting on my decision to return to work, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom, so she and very opinionated, and she was like, I can't believe you're leaving this child and going to work. And I remember like Savea was an infant and I came home and I picked her up and like she turned her head and like looked away from me. And my mom was like, see, she's doing that because she's resenting you. And I was like,
Oh,
thanks, because I needed more guilt.
Mom!
Like, you got to be kidding me here,
Oh
woman.
my
And she
gosh.
did.
What?
And so, anyway, like I just sat there and I was like, whoa. And now, like, fast forward, like, I really believe that it's something that empowers Faye. Like, she's very independent. She's very strong. Like, she's trying to start her own business. Like, I mean, my daughter is like the queen of lemonade stands on our street.
So,
And, now she's got this 3D printer that, watch out, Shelby, there's going to be fidget sales coming this summer.
oh my gosh, we're
She's
gonna pair her
already,
up with Henry. Yeah, Henry's got like a
she's
racketeering operation going at the middle school.
so great. The two of
Two
them
of
need to hang
them.
out because, they're the next Edina billionaires right there. But yeah, it's just crazy. And so I just definitely believe, like, for me, going kind of the opposite path of, I really thought I might have become a stay at home mom. And then I was like, no, I'm not equipped. But I have huge admiration and respect for parents who choose this path, which was a big part of the reason why I wanted to bring you on, because I think a lot of times it becomes an us versus them of like working women
Mhm.
versus women who are working in the home. And I hate that because we all complement each other and we are able to show other future women, older women, that any path is right if it's the right path for you.
Mhm.
And that's what I love about it. If you're a part time, outside of the home working mom, and, I think every mom, no matter what, is full time in the house. So I love that. I love that you're just opening yourself up to us and having
That
these
gives
conversations.
and that gives a
Yeah.
great segue to the next question. And I want to give a disclaimer like how Shelby offers her opinion on how you do it. You may take pieces of it because it might align with it, but we also want to gift everyone in the audience that they get to choose however they would handle this situation. So, going back to the question, what do you say to others who may have big opinions about your decision? Because they may have heard this was this kick ass powerhouse, Georgetown graduate, kicking ass inside the office, in the courtroom with the briefings. And then she chose to be a kick ass powerhouse mom of four. But people get big opinions. So, how do you handle that? Is there anything that you would offer to our audience if they are faced kind of with that courtroom question as well?
I think so I was lucky. People did not express opinions quite as loudly as it sounds like Christina's mom did. More people actually were like, gosh, I wish I could do that. And I was very surprised by that. I thought, we were all supposed to be like, no,
Mm.
we want to be here. We want to be at work. All the women are going to be like, why are you doing this? And more people were like, oh gosh, I wish I could do that for whatever reason.
Oh, I love that.
Yes, my mom was probably the opposite from Christina's mom, and that, she had come up in a family where like women didn't work. She had to drive really hard to be a professional, and it was very, pushed me pretty hard. And I think was very surprised that I would step back from all of these accolades, which I had worked very hard for and loved getting. To her credit, she was not quite as vocal as your mom, but still, I thought it was there. And I think a lot of people had seen that I was unhappy doing that. And so probably didn't surprise them that I left. But I think to the extent that people express opinions, you just gotta say, okay, well, that's your thing. I don't feel that way. Oh, it's working for us right now. This is what we got to do. Peace out.
And, I would say that there in our town are quite a few powerhouse women who've chosen a similar path to Shelby.
Mhm.
And
Which is why this is just the greatest neighborhood to be a stay-at-home mom.
right.
Like,
And I would say that the school PTO is literally run like a Fortune 500 company.
It
Like
basically is. Yeah.
it's incredible. The organization, the documentation, the efficiency. I mean, better than, because I think a lot of times corporate America is super inefficient. And it is the most efficient, well run machine you would ever
Thank you.
see. Like
Thank you.
insane
Yeah.
in the best of ways.
We do have a lot of, yeah, just like type A, former professional, former corporate women with a lot of time and energy, on their
Yeah,
hands. And so you can tell when you go to the PTO meetings.
I was
Well,
shocked.
they're
Done.
investing into the business of the children of the community. They have a mission and they're leaning
Yes.
into that collaboratively and collectively. I love that.
100%.
And people,
100%.
you're from Florida, so you don't know, but people in Minnesota love to hate on our town because we're
Yes.
just darn good at everything. And I think a lot of it is like you see all these things that happen and that work and that go on, and someone has to do them. And it's the type A stay-at-home moms.
100%.
Hockey is just a machine, basketball is a machine, theater is a machine, the band is a machine, the PTOs are a machine, the fundraising is a machine. And it's like, well, yeah, look who's
Yeah.
running it.
It's C-suite
I love
execs
it.
that are
It's
now
all these.
running their homes.
Yes, yes.
100%.
That's awesome.
It's so much. I mean, yeah. And in a lot of ways, like intimidating when I walked in the town. Like, as much as I'm a career woman, I was like, damn, like, whoa.
But also
Yeah.
we get the nice things about that classic, like Leave It to Beaver. Our neighborhood is fairly dense. And
Mhm.
so you see like, you read about like the loss of freedom for kids and like the loss of independence, and we don't see it here. And some of it is because like, well, the streets are safe and some of the moms are home. So the kids are roaming. And I don't know,
Mhm.
yesterday I got home and there were like 8 kids in my house.
Yeah.
And it's good. Okay, well, I'm here. Cool. Come on over, have a snack. And they can do that because there are people
Mhm.
around.
Well, it
And
sounds like these women fight like hell to gift children their childhood
Yeah. Yeah.
in
I
the
think that's
means that
very,
100%.
in the way they can.
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like that. It makes it
Absolutely. I
sound really
love
good.
that
Thank you.
reframe.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need that like on a banner when you come into
Yeah.
town.
Yeah. You're not
Like,
slacking. You're not stay at home and eating bonbons and watching your story,
no.
gifting the
That's
children
a
childhood.
Right.
billboard sign on
We,
Highway
yeah,
100 right
we
there.
worked,
Yes.
we have band together to gift our children the childhood they were meant to have.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
that. I love that. I don't know if I asked this already, but what do you love about your job now? And I feel like it's been sprinkled in, but
Yeah.
add some more to that.
Okay, so I just freaking love the kids. And like I said, I didn't expect to want to have 4 kids. I thought like, oh, I like babies and I'll leave them with a nanny. And I just think the kids are fantastic. That's not to say that I don't occasionally want to like neck punch one of them, because like I do. And they're tough. They can be really
Love it.
hard. But like they're
Amen.
so just like they're funny and they're magical in ways that like adults are not. And like you also occasionally want to slap your coworkers and the adults in your life. Like let's not pretend that you go off to grown
Right.
up jobs in offices and you
Mhm.
don't also want to punch those coworkers sometimes. So, but like the kids are just so much more fun than the adults. Like all of
Mhm.
the things that I would not have guessed that we would be into, the kids like keep us alive to like new things in the world, and with 4 of them now. So I have a 14-year-old, a 12-year-old, a 10-year-old, and an 8-year-old. And so they're all like out doing things now. And it's so cool because they bring those things home and it's just like the conversations that are happening, the experiences that they're having are things that like I never would have done if I were still just like living lawyer life. It's like, oh,
Mhm.
I didn't know anything about musical theater. Well, now I've got like a theater crew kid. I didn't know anything about snow sports, but like the kids are skiing and snowboarding. And I think, God, that looks really fun. So I take up skiing at 40. Like I didn't know anything about hockey and now we've got hockey. The kids have gone through like crazy phases and like what they're reading, what they're drawing, like Rubik's cubing, just like so many things. And like having 4 of them like brings that all into like the family's experience. So it is now like a unit that is more than just like me and my husband. It's like this whole, I don't know, thing that has gravity of its own. And they all just like keep sucking new stuff into the gravity, which is just really cool.
They've gifted you life expansion. And I
Yes,
think if you
exactly.
are not watching this on YouTube, like after you listen to this on the audio, wherever you're listening to it, go watch on YouTube because as Shelby's talking about her kids and the life that she's gaining in the career that she chose to parent, your eyes just
Yeah, I love that.
Sparkle.
sparkled.
She
Your
gets so
smile
animated.
was bright, like
Yeah, there's something in that.
you're radiating as you talk about
Yeah.
it. And that's a job description that's worth living for and loving.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
And that's what we talk about all the time is we just want women to live their fullest and to quit focusing on the should do's or the judgment calls or the things that people tell them they should be. And we want them to essentially shove that off their back and be their authentic self. And that's what I love about this is that, you know, you're smart, you're capable, you went to Georgetown, like you were powerhouse attorney, and you knew that wasn't what your life was meant to be. And so you were able to essentially pause and say, no, I'm going this route and doing something that fills me up and makes me feel full and excited to live every day. I love
Yeah.
that. And I love
Yeah.
that for your kids that you're able to model that for them. You're modeling that for the neighborhood kids, you know, for them to see you're passionate and loving your job helps them to decide, like, I want something that I believe in and love, whether it's a stay at home mom, whether it's something they have to go to school for, whatever it may be. Like, they're watching you feel passionate about what you do and realize, like, it's capable and it's feasible to have,
Yeah. Well, thank you.
which is awesome.
So Christine and I talk about sprinkling gifts. So we're going to kind of put you on the spot right now, Shelby. If
Yeah.
you could gift our audience for those people who are parents that are contemplating leaving their full-time career and leaning more into their heart space of being a full-time parent, what gifts would you give them during that contemplating phase that they may be in right now?
I would say they need to have some confidence that it is not always going to look like the first stage. It does change a lot over the course of staying home. Like I'm on year 12 of maternity leave now, let's say.
I love
And
that.
when you picture leaving work to stay home, you're kind of picturing like I'm at home, like snuggling babies or
Mm.
maybe like chasing a toddler. And it changes so much because your kids change so much. I mean, not just for us because we decided to have two more kids, which I would never have done if I were still working, but because the kids get bigger and you move and other opportunities come up or, life changes. And so if the thought of staying home like with a baby isn't maybe what's calling to you or what appeals to you, like it's probably going to change pretty soon. And so just like lean into the fact that like, hey, this is a choice for like our family for all the phases and not just for this one phase.
And I would say it's also a gift to those around you, to your family, to your neighborhood. I mean, I can't imagine our neighborhood without your two littles.
I know
I
they're
can't.
everywhere.
I love it. Oh my gosh. Fritz is in our driveway playing basketball. He's shooting hoops. He's running. Like, it's just fun. And it's such a gift to
Yeah.
all of us that you've chosen this.
Yeah. Well, thanks. And I
Yeah.
think I would tell people, like, I'm trying to think how to say this. Like you can do it in a way that suits you. Like I said
Mhm.
earlier, like it is a job. There's not like a one way to be a stay-at-home mom. I'm very not stay-at-home-y. I'm really not here in the house a lot because, we're out there. I'm still running the PTO. I have had part-time work on and off. You know, I'm doing this, I'm doing that. So I've structured it in a way that like I enjoy, it works for the family. And so, if you choose to stay home, there's not like one way you have to do it. You still
Right.
do it. And in many ways, I have way more control over my life and my day and my schedule than I would have if I were working with or without kids. I have no boss to respond to. Like,
Right.
Oh,
You get to have check-ins with yourself and your partner and
yeah.
rewrite whatever the job description. But I think the
Yeah.
other gift that you gave for the people that are listening, Christina, talk a lot about the trickle effect. Like when you take care of yourself and honor your birthday and who you want to be, the impact that it has, other people feel it. So it sounds like when you
hmm
leaned into and made that decision and you owned, you embraced it, you loved it, the impact that you're having on your life, on your relationship on the birth of your children on their growth platform is trickling into your community, your schools, everything that you're talking about.
Yeah.
I hope so. I mean,
So,
Christina's cheerleading it on. I hear it.
yeah,
hey,
for those that are questioning and kind of in that place, maybe they're full into their career, or they're just starting their career or whatever, and they're questioning having children, what wisdom would you share for them?
they're questioning whether to have kids at all.
Yeah.
Oh, so I guess I would say like the kids are just so much awesomer than you think they're going to be. They're these people that you have a
Oh,
relationship with from the very beginning. Like every relationship is going to have baggage, but at least you know what it is. You were there for it.
you
Um,
created it.
and they're created it. And like they grow up to be interesting, independent people that hopefully you like. They keep bringing new things to like the adult's life.
Oh my gosh,
It's
yes.
not, it's not just like one way, like I'm getting sucked dry. Like the kids are giving back too. Like they're in
Mm-hmm.
this, like with a full equal relationship. They're
100%.
way better they're way better than I thought they would be. And if you are not a babies person, they just don't stay babies that long.
They don't.
And I think a lot of people are put off by that. They're like, I'm not into babies. Maybe I won't have kids. Well, dude, they are babies for like a hot minute. I wish mine had
Mm-hmm.
stayed babies longer, but like elementary school kids are hilarious and interesting
Yeah.
and quirky, and middle schoolers, like, bless their hearts, for the times that they're awkward, are also freaking so funny. They're so
Mm-hmm.
quick-witted. They are so sensitive, which makes you much more aware of, the good and the bad in the world. We're just getting into the high school phase now, and I'm sure that will be something else, but like, don't let babies cut you off. Like, there's people and they
Agreed.
keep changing and they keep bringing in new things, new
Yeah.
experience, new perspectives to the family.
And I find like anything that I seem to have judged about parents before I became one are the things that like I'm now facing and embracing.
Yeah.
Like kids who didn't sleep, like my kids were terrible
Oh
sleepers,
my
and
gosh.
then, kids that a dance mom. Like what? I mean, if you looked at my work bag right now, I have the most giant makeup bag for dance tonight.
I
Like
didn't
what
know
the
Spaya was
hell?
dancing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So, I mean,
Oh
it's
my
just
God.
crazy, but I
It's
love
crazy.
it. So,
Yes.
we're just like lending right into our conversation.
Yes.
So
They're all,
what would you share are some of your most, and I'm feeling kind of guilty, like I'm asking you to just pull out a few, right? Because
oh no, that's me.
the way you talk about it, like so much sounds magical. But on the top of your head, what are some of your most rewarding parenting moments?
So there's like nothing like having four kids to teach you that they are what they are. And I have very little control over what they are. And you have one or you have two and you think, okay, this is like, oh, they're different in these ways. Whatever, you have four and they're all different in like a different cocktail of ways. And so, each of them has something that is challenging about them. And I would say the most rewarding parenting moments for me are when one of them has a challenge in that whatever vein it is for that kid. And like we like overcome it. Like we get past that moment in that particular way, because all the kids, they have to work
Mm.
hard. They're all gonna like have a test, have a meet, have a race, have a whatever. It's sort of standard challenges, standard difficulties, but like personality wise, each one of them has something that is really hard for them. And if we can get over, or we get over a hurdle in that lane, I always feel like, oh, I did it. Sometimes, and I have to, I don't have external validation beyond, like, I'll text my husband and I'm just like, I parented so hard today, honey. Like I got Heidi over the whatever, like I got Ingrid to do the thing. And I'm like, we did
Right.
it. Me and the kid, we got over
Yeah.
their thing in that lane that makes them crazy. Yeah.
I love
Those are the good
that.
moments.
Well, what I
I love
love
that.
is me and the kid
Good.
together got over their hurdle you partner with.
Mm-hmm.
I love that.
I love that. One of the best pieces of wisdom I ever got was to teach your children that there was no problem too big that we can't solve together.
Mhm.
And I've always like embraced that in my parenting of like, I am here for us to solve whatever we need to together. And I never want you to feel like you have to do it alone. If you want to try to do it on your own because you're independent, go for it.
Go for it.
Like, I'm all about that. But if you want my help and my support, I am 250% here, even if I'm, in a courtroom or wherever, I am here. And so I love that.
Well, with all this great parenting stuff and the huge smile and the sparkle in your eye, then we're going to ask, do you ever wonder about returning to work outside the home? And then the second part of the question, what would you share with others who may have some of the same thoughts, recognizing how you feel about it might be different than others? So do you ever wonder and dream about returning to work outside the home? And then if you hear other women talking about it, what would you say to them if they have that same thought?
I do think about it, and things have come up from time to time. I have done other part-time work totally outside of law land occasionally. And I do think about returning to legal practice every now and then. And I have, friends that I've kept in touch with who are in a position to hire and offer work, and they have a number of times. And for one reason or another, it has just not worked out. I was in fact prepared to start working for a friend who owns her own firm about a year ago, and then, was diagnosed with some medical issues, as we've talked about. And so that kind of got taken off the table. But, it's nice to know that it is always there if I want it or need it. And I guess for other women who think about that, I have been as out of the legal network and swirl as one can realistically be. I have not continued to network or go to conferences or do any of that stuff. And yet still, even after 10 years out, I'm still getting a call hey, would you want to do this? Would you want to do that? Or, I get offers for other kinds of work where they need type A skill sets, but are not law. And so I guess I shouldn't have spent so much time worrying that there would be no on-ramp. It does seem like if you're skilled, if you're smart, if you're out there socially in your community, there are opportunities out there.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have to be just would I go back to the exact same kind of work that I was doing before? It may be, is there something else out there that I could be doing if I want it part-time, if I want this, I want that, and it's out there. I wouldn't stress too much about it.
I love that. So friends, you showing up and listening today tells us that you are either questioning or you're looking for validation about your choice of parenting. Or, like me, you're a huge fan of Shelby. Maybe you're in our neighborhood, maybe you're an Edina mom, or just a friend maybe from one of the coasts. So we so appreciate you, Shelby. And I just want to thank you for your candor, your kindness, your humor, and the reality of parenting and the amazing decision you've made with your life. For our listeners, if you know others who need this episode, share it with them right now. Whether you're validating an amazing mom, helping somebody who's trying to make this decision, or just want somebody to know how amazing momhood can be, join us. We'd be grateful if you left us a positive review and come hang out with us on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn during the week. And don't forget our gifts from the couch on Monday. Until next Thursday, happy birthday!